Hey all, it's KR King of D&D Homebrew, talking today about creating dynamic encounters by starting in the middle. And what this means is the creature or NPC that the players encounter are in the middle of some activity. You know, whether the players just stumble across them or are seeking them out, when they do so, these creatures are busy doing something in the world. And this is way more interesting than just you see orcs 50 feet away, roll initiative. And when you're constantly thinking about how can I create encounters in the middle, it makes your world more compelling, more real. It gives opportunities for storylines, and it gives you opportunities to have non-combat encounters. It's a storytelling game, and you're creating a narrative in which things are happening in the world before and after the players get there, right? These creatures are experiencing that world, living in it. And, you know, this was what was so liberating in the early days of D&D when we left the dungeons. You know, we stopped doing the dungeon crawls and went out into the wilderness where the majority of things live, right? Creatures are not underground in pitch black caverns or rooms. They're out in the world. And they're having experiences based on their actual real-life activity as opposed to just be sitting in a room waiting for the players to arrive. So I'm just going to use a classic monster of most fantasy RPG tropes, the orc, as an example for this video. Let's say you have 5 orcs. Whatever this is in terms of, the levels of the players or anything, you have 5 orcs. The players are going through, let's say, a wilderness area, whether just open fields and stuff or forest, or they're on a trail. Let's say they're on a trail that's going through a forest. And 5 orcs run across this trail at top speed. They either don't see the players or they just ignore them. So the classic question of a GM comes up to the players, what do you do? Do the players chase after the orcs? Do they go up to the area that the orcs cross to see if they see anything? Do they hide, right? Because if these orcs are running at top speeds, the question arises, is something chasing them? And suppose 30 seconds later, 2 hill giants cross this same spot. They're chasing the orcs. Where are the players? Are they hiding? Are they standing right there? And why were the hill giants chasing them? Just hunting? The orcs stumbled across them? Did they steal something from the hill giants? There's something happened. Something happened just before the players came in this area to cause this incident. And what if the players chased after the orcs? Now they're between the orcs and the hill giants. And the hill giants are probably going to catch up. Do the players see this? And if the hill giants are chasing the orcs because they stole something, they might ignore the humans. They know who stole something, but maybe not. And stealing something is interesting because we're thinking of orcs doing orcish things, depending on how you play them, in which they might try to steal something from a more powerful creature or something they want. Let's say the players see the orcs and they chase after them, and one of the orcs drops something. They look back and they see when they drop something. They keep going. So the players stop and look what it is. And it's a giant egg. Okay. And behind the players comes an owl bear looking for its egg. Or what if the egg drops and it breaks? And now the players are standing there with a broken egg and the owl bear. What happens? And you can up the ante here. Suppose it's a Tyrannosaurus Rex, right? Something like that. So the orcs stole this for whatever reason. Running away, the players chased them, they just dropped it. Because in each of these cases, there's a storyline based on the daily activities of all these various creatures in the world, and the players are moving through space and time, as it were, and interacting with those storylines as they're happening. You know, keeping with our 5 orcs, let's think of some other examples. Suppose the orcs are encamped somewhere, and the players come across them. Suppose the orcs... it's near late day, evening, and the orcs have created a campfire and the players see it far off. Now, we learned early on when we started running in the wilderness, if you build campfires, things will see them and check them out. So we often did not use them. And, just ask the halflings on Weathertop how that can work out, right? So let's say the orcs did not do this, but for some reason, the players, as they're going through, the orcs are not really being quiet. They're talking and whatnot. The players are moving very carefully, looking for their own place to encamp, and they see them. What do? Do they send a player that's kind of stealthy to go up and look? And does it look like the orcs are just minding their own business? And do the players decide, again, do the players have something that they're trying to achieve that's time sensitive? A lot of players will investigate that. But again, the orcs are just minding their own business. They're sitting in a campfire. So maybe they just move on. But suppose when the player comes along, stealthily to investigate. There's some tents around. They come around the tent, and they hear someone moaning inside. Clearly not an orc. Someone's being held captive. Now the players have a reason to interact with the orcs. They might not just attack right away. Again, it depends on what 5 orcs are to your party, but they may try to figure out what's going on and see what the orcs do. But we can just continue this storyline, in many different permutations. Suppose the players are going down the woods, down this path, and they see an orc injured lying in the trail, or seeming to be injured. Because the one thing you're going to think of, is it a trap? Is it pretending to be injured while the other 4 orcs, I don't know how many, but I'm using 5 as my example, they're waiting in the in the bushes to pounce on whoever comes up? Let's say the players come, it's clearly this orc is badly injured. Where are its compatriots, right? What happened? What do the wounds look like? What sort of creature did this? Was it swords or claws or teeth? And suppose the other orcs went off to get more from the main body. They were injured as well, couldn't carry, so they had to get some able-bodied ones. Maybe one survived this attack. Maybe you see the others, lying in the bushes dead. What do the players do when they find this injured orc? Do they attempt to help the orc, and then the main body comes along? Do they just kill the orc and are looking through the loot when the main body comes along? Or you can even take it, let's say that the players come across a group of orcan minstrels traveling through the wilderness, like the troubadours that travel through, medieval times, and I'm sure in a fantasy setting. And they just go from orc village to orc village, and they sing songs, classic orcan songs, or put on plays, or whatever they do. What do they might have a lot of information. They might have heard a lot of stories. How do the players interact with that? Right? How do they, do they pay them for a song and for some information? And are the, minstrels on their way to something? Because when you're creating a dynamic world in which orcs do orcish things, just like all sentient creatures, they have tasks at hand. Beasts and unintelligent monsters or whatever, they're searching for food or ingesting their food or resting or whatever. But sentient ones have all sorts of plans and goals. They have feuds, they have alliances, they have their gods, they have festivals, and again, these minstrels are traveling to some important orcan gathering where all the tribes come together or something, and depending on the orcan relationship to the other humanoids, the player character humanoids in your world, this could be very interesting. This could be something that the players could try to interact with. And what these dynamic encounters in which you're starting in the middle of a storyline do is they also encourage non-combat encounters. Because the minstrels, are you going to attack them? And they're going to give you this, either they give you some information, they tell you about some festival, they tell you about something that occurred, 25 miles over to here, and the players get interested in that. Let's say that with the owlbear egg, let's say the orcs, the players get this or whatever, and they take it, and they run off, or they escape with this owlbear egg. Now, it might be worthwhile in itself, but who paid the orcs to do this? And the orcs come back looking for their egg and counter the players. Maybe now you have a classic battle, and the players take one prisoner and say, why did you steal this egg? And there's some collector that's offering a certain amount of gold pieces for this. Who is this prisoner in the tent, and why are the orcs holding them? And, where are they taking them? And again, if they have a time-sensitive task at hand, the orcs may not want to, not only do they don't want to encounter, but they want to run off with this prisoner. This prisoner is very important, and they can't waste their time, in possibly losing this to the player characters. The battle with the injured orc. What happened? Was it just some random creature that flew over or hunted them down? What was it? Other orcs? They're having some tribes that are battling each other. What's the story here? You came across the end of this battle in the middle in terms of, for this injured orc, like what's going to happen to me? And the players not only, perhaps help the orc and not have a battle encounter, but now they're going to find out something about the world. And, non-combat encounters are among the most interesting. If you can figure out a way to negotiate, even if it's just a truce, you go your ways, I go mine, you've got some information possibly about activities. But more than that, you help this injured orc, you've potentially got an orcan ally, whatever the relationship is in your world. And this is why starting in the middle makes your encounters so dynamic, because you've got way more opportunities to create storylines, to create non-combat encounters, to create interactions with things on a level that's way more interesting than just roll initiative, have the battle. Either you kill them all, some run off, you get in trouble, whatever. And again, if you run into something, I talked about deadly areas in my last video. If you run into something deadly, if you can figure out a way to turn that into a non-combat encounter because you're in the middle of something, you have something to offer, some information, this is what makes your world, interesting, dynamic, compelling, as opposed to just fighting things all the time. So hopefully that was helpful to you. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe to my channel. I'm always looking for more. But leave some comments. Love to hear about how you handle encounters if you do encounters in the middle. And most importantly, keep playing an RPG game, whichever one you choose, and tell somebody else about it.